What's up, people? It's the Solar Kid, and we're back on The Other Side of the Sun podcast. Today I have a special guest, and it goes by the name of Chad Spade. He is a magician and self-proclaimed breaker of awkward silences. So let's start with that.
Let's start breaking the silences. Good to be here, man.
Yeah, man.
How you been?
I'm good, bro. I haven't actually physically seen you or spoken to you in must be like since 2004, 3 or something like that.
Yeah, since way before we even had the World Cup in SA.
Yeah, and you were a DJ back then, man. I remember you being a hot DJ back then, bro. You were like the hottest thing around, and then a couple of when I was like, oh, you're a magician. I was like, what? Yeah, what happened? What?
Yeah, it took a turn, didn't it? No, man. You know what? It was I did. I used to DJ when we met. So basically starting 2007 or 2006, somewhere there.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was awesome. But then I got an opportunity to basically work on a cruise ship and everything. And because I was kind of in and out of the country every 4 months or so, it was difficult to maintain like that sort of commitment to like the DJing and everything. So it kind of just fell away. I wouldn't say the passion fell away, because there are still a lot of times if I hear a song, I'm like, man, yeah, kind of mixing in my head type of thing, But yeah, and when I started on the ship, that's basically where the initial like actually going into full-time performing, like magic took over, because there's just like, I think for me, it's anything that gives me like any kind of creative outlet, you know what I mean? So it was music at that time, and I went full force into it. Then it was magic. Then I went full force into performing and into magic and that discipline. And yeah, so it's constantly changing. I guess it's always part of the journey. So
You've managed to like carve a career for yourself out of this?
Yeah, well, I did. Fortunately, it was with the magic being kind of, I started on board, like on the ships and everything, just purely being like kind of all round entertainment. But then it funneled down into mostly doing magic on board as well. And I don't know if it was just right place, right time, or I was fortunately just got very blessed to come home and then pursue that as well. But again, things change, and last year hit us, so I had to like make some drastic changes in terms of like my career and moving forward and paying those bills. So
yeah, of course. But how do you like I mean, I've always been intrigued by magic. Like it's one of those dark arts that like you have to belong to some secret society or fraternity of magicians, and you can't give away. How do you how do you learn this shit, man? Like if it's so secret, or like how do you get in?
Well, to be honest, it starts with the blood sacrifice. No, man. Like, you know what? It's funny because people always say that like magicians is obviously, people know like magicians never reveal like the techniques or the tricks or whatever. But then on the flip side, it's like if no one ever reveals the secrets or shares the information, how does anyone ever learn?
Yeah.
I think that particular statement about people not revealing the secrets or giving out information is kind of thrown around a bit, and it's taken like a bit too literally. You know what I mean? Fair enough, there are going to be people who don't want to share whatever. I think it's just you need to be selective over if someone has a genuine interest in learning magic. You know what I mean? They're not going to do anything. The art form itself is based around secrets, right? So obviously with anything with like an illusion, if someone's making an airplane disappear off a stage or a motorbike or whatever, there is a secret behind it, and that secret is what keeps the show alive. So for me, it's very much it becomes a very selective thing over who like I would personally share information with. But at the same time, people can go online. Like we have literally like there's a plethora of information online. You can search anything you want and you will find that information that you're looking for if you look hard enough. Do you understand what I mean? So for me, I initially learned it through books. just learning like sleight of hand stuff, and that stuff's stored through books, because there's a lot of people who, like poker players, for example, like if someone is playing poker and they like a card cheat or a card shark or a card mechanic, those handlings of specific cards and sleights and different techniques, those are all shown in books, and that's where I started my journey. And then it's like everything else, the more you learn about it, the more resources kind of like surface. You're like, oh, I didn't know this, I didn't know this, I didn't know that was there. And that's how it is. You're just like constantly learning. For me, it's like an everyday thing. You know what I mean? There's not one day that's passed since I've actually started and become like dedicated to actually performing and doing magic, where I haven't learned something new. It's like every day is just a reminder of how little I actually know. But yeah, like for information wise, online there's a ton of books. There's literally like even libraries. You can go to a public library and there are books on magic. It might be beginner stuff. You're not going to learn Dynamo's latest fountain freeze magic trick or whatever, but there are books to get you started, and I guess that's all it is.
Do you have like sorry to cut you there, but I was going to say, like, do you have a speciality or like a style or like that you've developed or
Absolutely. Yeah, so when I started, I was very much influenced by like people I would see on TV, like David Blaine.
Yeah.
Hence the poster behind me. But you kind of, I just picked up like my own style in terms of what I do most of the time. It's called close-up magic. So very similar to what you would see on TV, but it's like a very intimate performance with someone. So it's like a one-on-one type thing, doing close-up magic, like with cards or with coins or with any with a cell phone, whatever. That's what I love about close-up magic in particular, is that you can literally, gives you the opportunity to take the mundane, like the most mundane object or something that you would oversee or take for granted, like a cell phone, and do magic with it, like borrow someone's cell phone and do something with that, or take someone's money and, like if they give you like a 20 Rand, you change it into 100 Rand or whatever, and then you keep the 100 Rand for yourself, obviously. But yeah, so I would say I do a lot of close-up magic. I do stage stuff as well, but I don't necessarily do like large illusions. You know what I mean? For me, it's more along the lines of taking that street style or that close-up style of magic to a stage and trying to kind of broadcast it across an audience in a larger room.
So how have you found then, like you said, you've had to like adapt now, obviously, because of COVID, because if you're doing things close up and intimate, that means your business is dead, right? So what have you been, how have you managed
Absolutely, yeah. So COVID hit everything. So basically it stopped all the different avenues that I had, whether it was performing on ships, performing back home here in SA, in Joburg, everything came to a grinding halt. Like I think the entertainment industry was probably hit like one of the hardest, and it's still like struggling, you know what I mean? In South Africa, there's still like a lot of well, around the world, it's not even just South Africa, but there's like a lot of restrictions still. Obviously it's for the well-being of everyone, but when it was hit, like last year, we went into like hard lockdown, so everything was closed down. I had to basically convert to online, doing online shows. So very much like people were doing like online parties, like DJs were doing like online parties at home and you could join through Zoom or whatever other platform. Comedians were doing like stand-up comedy through Zoom, which is like something you can't even like fathom how that would work necessarily, but they made it work, dude. Like, where there's a will, there's a way, I guess. And the same thing, it affected me and everyone in this industry, like all other magicians. And we had to just basically a change of the times, I guess. That's what it is. You need to be, the world's gonna change around you, no matter whether it was through COVID happening, through like the lockdowns, or whether it was just something natural, like the natural, like growth of technology and the convenience of technology. Sooner or later, we were gonna get to this point of doing online stuff. I think everyone was just kind of thrust into it. From my side, I just had to kind of restructure what I did live for people to, and think what would work well, you know what I mean, on screen and on, on like through a camera or through a Zoom call or whatever.
Do you have anything
Because
you
it's
can
very
show
much
us?
hey?
Do you have anything you can show us?
You know what? I knew you were actually going to ask. And before I got on the call, my wife was like, do you think you're going to have to do some magic? I was like, I don't think so. But yeah, I can actually show you something real quick. Like a lot of times magic is very much like, it's misdirection. And misdirection doesn't mean you're looking in the wrong place or your attention is in the wrong place, right? It's more a matter of me controlling where your attention goes, right? So if I was to give you, and it works with a lot of things, with like some like visual cues, it works with psychology, a lot of things. So if we were to try this, basically, I've got right in front of me, right over here, I just got an envelope. In this brown envelope, I've got another envelope, okay? In this white envelope, I've got 4 playing cards. Now, to be honest with you, this is in the white envelope, it's the 4 queens. So you've got the queen of diamonds, clubs, hearts, and spades, right? Now, what I'm going to do is basically grab out all of the playing cards right over here, all 4 of the queens, okay? And I'm going to split them up so that in my left hand, that's the one with the watch, I've got the clubs and spades. Can you see it?
No. But yeah, in my head, I can.
Okay, after like maybe 3 drinks, you'd agree with me. Clubs and spades right over here in my left hand, and diamonds and hearts in my right hand. Okay. Now I just want you to go ahead, left or right?
Left.
Left. Okay, so I'm going to grab the clubs and spades. I'm going to crush them up and drop them on the floor right next to me. That brings us to diamonds and hearts right over here. Okay, so in my left hand, I've got the diamonds. In my right hand, I've got the queen of hearts. So go ahead, left or right? Your choice.
All right.
Right? So that's hearts.
Yeah.
Okay. Actually, before I crumble the diamonds up, did you say you want to keep
the hearts?
Keep the hearts. Okay, keep the hearts. I just want to make sure. So I'm going to crumble up the diamonds, throw that away. Now I'm going to take the queen of hearts, the one that you left out. I'm going to take it and turn it so that it's face up and slide it back into the envelope right over here. So now in the envelope, I've got 4 cards that are all facing the same direction. And there's 1 card facing the opposite direction, which is the queen of hearts. Your choice, right? Okay, watch. It's kind of like a prediction. In the brown envelope, got the white envelope. In the white envelope, I do really have 4 cards right over here. Okay. Now, if I just show you like this, all of them are face down. However, you'll see that because I turned one over, it is the one that you actually chose right over here. The only one that's face up, right? Now, that is, I would say I'm about 40% to an astonishing magic trick. But obviously I put these cards in the envelope before the time, right? I just kind of knew that you would end up with the Queen of Hearts. I was in fact so convinced that the Queen of Hearts was the only one with a red back. All the other cards have blue backs. Now, if you remember the final thing, while you were kind of selecting down to that queen, I was crumbling up the other cards and throwing them away. You remember that, right? Yeah. So technically they destroy, they don't exist anymore. So if I turn the other 3 queens over, all of those are completely blank. So there you go, ta-da!
That's dope, man. That is dope. I fucking I love Dynamo. Like, he is probably one of my all-time favorite like magicians. Like, I used to love David Blaine and stuff. He does some weird stuff though. But like Dynamo, like, I don't know, I feel like I could get on with him as a person. Do you know what I mean? Just as a human being, he just seems like such a weird and interesting guy. What do you think of have you seen much of his stuff over there now?
Obviously like on TV and everything. I honestly think that Dynamo, apart from David Blaine, like David Blaine was the first for me, I think, was to take like street magic, like that whole concept, like very like impromptu type stuff, take it out to people out on the street, make a like a TV special with it, and it just blew up, and then it kind of simmered down. No one really did it. Then Dynamo came, but because I think there was a lot more, people had a lot more access to whether it was like TV or streaming or whatever. When he started, it was like everything literally just blew up. Like all of a sudden, everyone was interested in magic and that style. Like people even ask me if they want to hire me for an event. They're like, oh, I saw this on TV. Can you do this thing where Dynamo did? I'm like, maybe not. That's Dynamo's thing. But I can still do a real good show.
Can you walk on water?
Yeah, I'm like, give me a decent budget and something. Yeah, definitely. But no, for sure, man. I think what is done for like the magic industry and for a lot of magicians is awesome. Like it really like skyrocketed and almost like it pushed like magic as an entertainment and as an art form to a lot of people. You know what I mean? And people, like I say, like events organizers and people who are generally just putting together like their team events for their companies and stuff like that, they became a lot more open to the idea, because normally in the past it was like you get a DJ or you get a stand-up comedian, which are great forms of entertainment, but now this additional avenue and this additional like sort of offering, if I can say that, it did a lot of favors, like those TV specials that he did. And even up until today, a lot of people still speak to Dynamo, and his last big thing was I think his biggest thing was the Magician Impossible series that he did, which were like 4
because
seasons.
he got ill, didn't he? He has
he has Crohn's
disease. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so he was like out for a while. And but yeah, I honestly I credit a lot to that particular TV special, you know what I mean? Just because it opened up a lot of opportunities for everyone in the industry.
Because I was gonna say, like, I mean, what in South Africa, I'm sure people will be like, "Hi, man, what is magic? What are you doing?" Like, you know what I mean? So
it's a joke, right?
Yeah. I was gonna be like, so I mean, what's this guy doing? He's coming with cards here, like what?
Yeah, no, it's so funny you say that, because when I started doing like corporate stuff, I promise you, it was my biggest challenge was not necessarily, like being nervous or worrying about this going wrong or being caught out. The biggest challenge for me was like people actually, it's so random if you think of, you're just sitting at your company team builder or your year-end event or something, and someone just randomly comes up to you and they're like, oh, you want to see a magic trick? Like, so for me, that was like the biggest thing, just getting over that little awkward space.
Like, I'm having a drink here, man.
Yeah, it's literally, and I mean, you learn to deal with. There are still people who are absolutely not interested. Obviously, being in SAP, there are a lot of different spiritual beliefs, right? So if you go to the wrong like person, they already think, even though like a lot of people completely understand that magic is, like I said, it's sleight of hand, it's all illusion, right? But there are people who still believe in magic as like a dark art, like a very spiritual thing, like you're a witch or whatever.
You're from the devil, boy.
Yeah, absolutely. So so it's like some people will always turn you away. It's just one of those things, especially being in South Africa. I've noticed it everywhere else that I've performed, no matter where else it's been outside of the country. People are like, those beliefs, those spiritual beliefs aren't necessarily there. You know what I mean? Like, people think like, if you're a magician, you're some kind of sangoma or whatever.
A sorcerer.
So, like, you sold your soul to the devil type of thing, which I did not, by the way. So yeah, it's there's just different things that you overcome, just like experience, like with everything else.
So I mean, like generally my show is about, I mean, people and their stories, and obviously I try and bring on people with interesting backgrounds, interesting careers like yourself, but I like to get into, getting to know you as a person. So I mean, like, being a magician, I would think you'd have to be quite a curious type of person. So what were you like kind of growing up and in high school and stuff like that? Were you what were you like?
I was honestly in all through school, I was dead quiet. I was like probably and I still am, actually. I'm very much introverted,
Still a
I don't know that language. No, I'm just kidding. No, so yeah, man, it was all the way throughout school, I would never have imagined myself. And I thought about this like, probably like a few months ago, with COVID and everything. I did a lot of like reflection and self-reflection and whatever. And I was like, I had never have thought that I would find myself actually pursuing a career that's on stage, like getting up in front of people and kind of, like trying my best to command an audience, and engaging an audience. So throughout school, I was extremely quiet, 100%. I was never like the popular person in school or whatever.
Where did you go?
I was always, what was that?
Where did you go to school?
So high school, I was in St. Barnabas in Bosman.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, pretty much all through high school. Well, from standard 6 to the end, grade 12. Yeah, grade 12. And then I don't know if it was a matter of like the DJing that got me comfortable with being like in front of people, because it's quite a thing to get used to, you know what I mean? Even as a DJ, it's like having all these eyes on you. You don't want to mess up a mix. You don't want to make it sound like, like a horse race when your mix is one, like the Durban July type of thing. So it is a lot of pressure from that. And yeah, I think initially that was the biggest thing for me, was getting up in front of people. I can honestly not say what drove me to actually doing it. Like if I have to try and think back, like why did I get into DJing, or anything that involves entertainment and engagement. I cannot say as hard as I can possibly think, or as hard as I try to think about it. I wouldn't be able to tell you, I started DJing. I just enjoyed playing music, you know what I mean?
What were you interested in? Like, what were you interested? Like, were you into books? Are you into like movies? A gamer?
So no, I absolutely was not into a gamer. My matric results will tell you I was not into books either. But no, you know what? I was always into movies. Like for me, movies were always like a big thing. And I think that's where, like, just being able to like see, obviously, a lot of these movies are fictional, and these are fictional worlds and universes and everything. But there's just something about it that like sparks your curiosity and your imagination and anything else. And I think those are the things that actually drove me to being like to go into more of a creative side of things, you know what I mean? So yeah, all the way throughout school, I honestly, like, I always think when I have kids, right, or when my wife and I have kids, I'm always like, what am I going to tell them? Like, what stories do I have from high school? I have no stories from high school, like at all. It was that flatline throughout all of high school. I was never at the top of the class. I was never at the bottom of the class. I was never the most popular person. I was never the least liked person in school. It was just always like just very, very midway. But after school, that's when it kind of like a lot of things just changed, like suddenly, like out of the blue.
Grew up, yeah. What's that? Are you still there? That? Oh no, I'm just saying, yeah. You grew up, yeah. You grew up.
So yeah, I mean, after school, went to university. Also, it was kind of, I didn't want to, because at that time, as I finished school, I obviously started the DJing thing, and I was like, this is what I want to pursue, or I wanted to go into something more on the creative side. I realized that's what I wanted to do. But it was sort of like, like family politics get involved, and you're like, you must go and be a lawyer, you must go and be a doctor, or you go and study finance. I didn't want to do any of those things. And even until today, I don't think, if I had to pursue it, even if I had to get a degree in one of those, I wouldn't have been in those industries or in those professions anyway. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of people who they study to be doctors and are fortunate enough to then make another career out of their creative space. Like Riyad Musa, for example, a doctor and is a comedian. You know what I mean? Like he's a qualified doctor, yet his actual profession is stand-up comedy.
I didn't actually know that he was a doctor.
Yeah, I think it is Riyad Musa. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, so I kind of just went my own route with all of that as well. And then just kept pushing, like just trying to, I guess, just like I said, like creative outlets. For me, that's what it's about, man. You know, that's when you're gonna put out your best work, when you aren't necessarily worried about like right now, about social media following or anything like that. I think when you chase the like the wrong stuff, if it's, you know, if the source of your motivation is purely just chasing the money out of it, then I feel like you're going to run into a wall sooner or later. Um, so that's why for me, it's like, and like even my social media stuff is not big at all, but I still feel like I'm always going to just keep putting stuff out. There are going to be people who want to see it, and you're going to run into the right people at the right times.
Exactly. No, I believe the same, man. I'm literally doing the same with this podcast. But I see. So you said you have the travel bug, man. Where have you been, and like, how do you feel that's kind of either changed your perception of the world or like giving you a better understanding of things like that? Because I mean, I know for me, travel is like amazing, man. As a musician, as a creative, like whenever you go away, you just feel so inspired, man, and you come back home and stuff. You know?
Absolutely, man. Yeah. You know what? The when I always feel like you always, like your imagination, or your, yeah, call it your imagination, is always very limited by, for the most part, majority of the time, is limited by your immediate surroundings. You know what I mean? So for example, when I was growing up in Bosman, everyone who was working at that time was like, we had a job at a call center, they were driving Golf Lifes, they were, you know, 17-inch wheels, massive sound system. And for me, I was like, that's the dream. You know what I mean? I was like, geez, they are living the absolute life. Um, but after traveling, like after I started traveling, I realized it's like, it made me realize how small that vision actually was. You know what I mean? And it's not just in terms of like material accomplishments or anything like that. It's people and culture, and just learning about the rest of the world outside of what you've been taught, you know.
And in
Breaking,
experientially, not just in a book or movie, because it's so different.
it's so different. Yeah, I mean, even if you think of the way a lot of times South Africa is portrayed in movies, right? It looks very much like Zulu on my stoop. Like every single movie looks like it's Zulu on my stoop, for the most part, at least. Or they focus like on the negative. It's always like, oh, South Africa, poverty stricken,
Political,
you know, that type of thing. But there's like, to me, South Africa is probably still one of the most beautiful places on earth. You know what I mean? Like it's a cultural melting pot. We have some of the smartest people in the world have come from South Africa. You know, I think we don't get a lot of credit, but I went off on a tangent. Back to what we were saying. Yeah, no, the traveling definitely opened my eyes a lot, you know. Fortunately, working on the cruise line, I got to see places I've never even heard of. To like, I always thought like the Caribbean was one place. Like the Caribbean is, it's like Cape Town. You go to Cape Town and that's where you are, you know. And then like you get exposed to these smaller islands in the Caribbean. Some of the islands are like half and half. So I think it is Saint Martin, if I'm not mistaken, out in the Caribbean. That is like half Dutch, half French. You know what I mean? So you literally go to one part of the island, there's a lot of French stuff. You go to the other part of the island, it's like all Dutch. It's like, it's crazy. Like it's literally two worlds in one place. You know, even other places that I had never, like I said, even heard about. I was fortunate enough to visit, and I don't think I would have done as much. Like my travel, call it like my passport would not have been as extensively stamped if it wasn't for that opportunity. You know, and yeah, you learn a lot about like different people, man. Like there's a lot of stereotypes that people, like someone would have, if they haven't met someone, like let's say someone from South Africa has not met someone from the US. You know, somehow these stereotypes are developed, and until you actually meet and interact with various people, it's like that's what you think about them,
Mm.
you know. And I'm just using that as an example. But yeah, it's really
So how was it like challenged or like affected your perception of people from different places and stuff, especially being from where we're from, you know what I mean?
yeah. I mean, my it's just it's taught me a lot of like acceptance of different people. You know what I mean? Um, people are, at the end of the day, no matter where you go, no matter where the next person you meet is from, they're a person. They're just like you know. Everybody's kind of running their own race, and how they choose to like portray themselves publicly, um that's kind of up to them. You know what I mean? You, at the end of the day, you can't control what other people do or how they act or whatever, but I mean, you can control, you in full control of how you react and how you engage with people, you know. So um it's yeah, it's just about being a nice person at the end of the day is what it is. um
What would you say was
so
your most sort of uncomfortable experience while you were like traveling and stuff, or awkward, and like did you have anything that made you feel like really weird or really like, I don't know, ignorant, or like to, you know, to what's going on in the world? Was there anything that ever made you feel that way? Or like
um
where I come from, like we're so like weird, or like the way we see things in the world is a bit, you know.
it's a very different view.
Mm.
I wouldn't say like there was anything that was necessarily like eye opening. You know what I mean? The one thing that I did realize was, um, I always, it's like these places, like for example, the Caribbean and the Bahamas and everywhere else, it's always painted again, and it comes from like the portrayal that you see in movies. You know, like if someone goes to Jamaica, they show you the five-star resort of Jamaica, for example. You know what I mean? But literally, right next door to that is like
Squatter
it's
camp.
pure poverty. It's very much like South Africa. It's
Yeah.
like if you know what I mean. And I think that actually opened my eyes to how these like the entertainment industry and the movie industry puts these places up on a pedestal, you know, and it gives you like a false expectation. I thought all of Jamaica looks like couples retreat. You see that
White
movie
sand
Couples
beach.
Retreat?
Yeah, white
You know
sand
what I
beach.
mean? Like I thought that was all of Jamaica, dude. Until I got there. Now, don't get me wrong, it still is up until today one of my favorite places that I've ever visited. I absolutely love Jamaica. Like the people, the food, everything about it is awesome. But I did realize on my first visit there that it's no different to South Africa. You know what I mean? Like
Jamaica
you can
reminds me a
literally
lot
stay.
about South Africa, actually, you know.
Yeah, it does. It does a lot. And yeah, like I was saying, it's very similar to like even in Joburg, you can stay in a multi-million rand house in a huge, like expensive golf estate or whatever. But literally right next door
It's a
is
squatter
like
camp.
it's a squatter camp, like a massive squatter camp. And it's exactly like that. And I think to me, that was like the biggest thing, just being like, this place is just like home, you know? It didn't make me appreciate it any less. In fact, it made me appreciate it a lot more because it was just like, it was something I was used to as well. You know what I
Did
mean?
you ever have to did you ever have to like uh change your accent a bit in order to accommodate people understanding you, and like did you have to ever like explain your race to people?
Yes, 100%. When I started, obviously people would be like, "Oh, you're from South African. You're from South African. You're from South Africa, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm colored." That word,
Yeah, you can't say that.
I didn't know that at first.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Again, that's like I guess I was just like I wasn't exposed to it, and they're like, "You like colored." It's like a bad word type
Yeah,
of
you
thing.
can't say that.
To me, it's like, and I've tried to like, and I completely understand why, you know, the rest of the world has those views, but you know, to us it's like we are colored. I have um nothing holding me back from saying that's what I am, that is my heritage, that is where I come from. You know what I mean? um what else am I going to call myself? You know, my parents are colored. It's not like my mother's white and my father's black and I'm mixed race. No, my parents are both colored, so I'm 100% colored. You know what I mean?
It's hard to explain to people, but
It's so difficult to explain. Yeah, it's like we are race on our own. We've kind of given ourselves our own name. We weren't named necessarily.
well, we were by the people that the powers that be, that's why a lot of people say
Yeah.
so-called, colored.
No. Yeah. No, but I mean, like it's it's a name that we've embraced it, man, for years, for generations. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
almost like 200-300
And
years or something.
yeah, so, and like you say, it's very difficult to explain to people what it actually is and why we don't see it in the same light as what the rest of the world sees it. You know, um,
So did that
I
challenge
had
your
to change
perception like a lot?
my perception on what.
Just on people and things in general, and also the way you view the world, because I mean,
I mean,
you said earlier, like being in Bosmont and like just aspiring to the golf thing, that was quite limiting. So in the same sense, do you think maybe that was similar because of how marginalized and contained our information that we ingested and received when we were younger was? You know what I mean? And keeps you in this like bubble of understanding.
yes. You mean in general,
Yeah, yeah,
like my perception in
yeah,
general?
yeah.
Yeah, no, it definitely did. I there was, I guess if I have to like just put it into as little words as possible, I think I realized like how limitless the world is in terms of like possibilities, ideas, opportunities, and just being around like people. I think the best thing for me was that I was able to work around, people from like 52 different nationalities. So I literally worked with all over the world, people from all over the world. And you kind of, it just helps you as a person to get along with, and kind of relate as well. When I don't say get along, because there are obviously going to be clashes, there are personalities that don't go with you, or vice versa as well. But I mean, in terms of like views and values and those types of things, traditions, um, I nothing was challenged. I'm just like, for me, I'm just super grateful that I got to learn. For me, it was all like one giant learning experience.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I mean, traveling for me has been amazing and definitely like, yeah, life changing and eye opening, because like just being, I mean, like London is like everyone from the world comes to London. You know what I'm saying? So you literally, similar to you, it's like you have the whole world at your doorstep. You know what I mean? You're meeting people from every part of the globe. I've got friends like literally everywhere in the world. You know what I mean? And it's just, firstly, it helps you to realize that like on a human level, we all the same. You know what I'm saying? We literally all the same. We eat the same, we shit the same, we die the same, we're born the same.
100%.
And then you have all these other little things that have been created over time in history and culture and all these things. So it really helps you to, like you say, you develop a better understanding. And I don't know about you, but like growing up in South Africa, like you taught immediately, or either physically or just through experience, that you are different. You know what I mean? We live well, in the 90s and 80s, and so we lived in a colored area. There was a black area. There was an Indian area. We didn't really interact. So we were all had these prejudices inbuilt into us. So it kind of took time for all, and it's going to be a long process, especially in South Africa, of still overcoming those boundaries. And the more people integrate and go to school together and that kind of stuff,
absolutely,
will eventually
I feel like
change.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. And I feel like growing up in like a colored community, or even like in with colored people in general, it's come to a point where, and it's part of the journey, it's part of that healing journey, and part of that, like, the integration is probably going to play a big part of it. But you have like two different parts of colored people. Like, colored people even want to separate themselves from like their own race. Do you understand what I mean? Whether it's in terms of like the working class or whatever it is. And And I think that's
Afrikaans.
probably the one.
English and Afrikaans.
English and yeah, however it is, and it's, I mean, it is part of. It's not. Oh, sorry, let me rephrase that. It is gonna get better over time, I think. You know what I mean? Just because with simple things like this, like doing something over Zoom, where I'm in South Africa, you like thousands of kilometers away, and yet we can still interact in real time. That type of integration and engagement is going to help a lot in terms of like the like, how can I say, like cultural understanding, basically. You understand what I mean?
Definitely, definitely.
It's just time.
So just following on from that, man, are you spiritual or are you religious? I mean, since you are a Sangoma anyway.
I've been accused. You know what? I grew up Christian. Obviously, I was baptized and I went to an Anglican church pretty much all my life. So in that sense, yes, I would say that I'm Christian. However, and I think it's because of like just past experience, I've become more open to different teachings. Like every religion has, for the most part, they're built on the same fundamental principles, but also apart from that, there's a lot of good lessons that can come from each different religion, whether it's like from Christianity, from Islam, Buddhism, whichever one you look at. So for me, I'm very open to learning all of those. So yeah, I mean that's kind of the one that I'm like, okay, maybe not so much. But yeah, so for me, I would say like I'm spiritual, and I'm just open to learning, man. The thing is, for me, it's whatever I can learn and then use at a later point in my life to make things better, whether it's interaction with people or to help or to whatever. I'm open to learning any of those, so yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say, like, I can't tell you, I mean, I can tell you the last time that I was in a church was like over Christmas time, which was with like my family, Christmas carols by candlelight, that type of thing. But before that, I don't really go to church or anything like that all that often, just because I feel like I can still create a connection with a higher being, whether it's with God or the universe, whatever you want to, however you call it. There are ways outside of having to go to church every Sunday morning to create those connections, or to create that connection, the individual connection.
Yeah, and I mean, it should be a daily thing anyway. You shouldn't wait like until Sunday to go and,
yeah, you shouldn't only be a good person on Sunday morning from 8 to 10 in the morning. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
plus you don't even know, you might even still be hungover in between 8 and 10 in church anyway.
Oh, dude, like, yeah, what's the point? But yeah, man, I would say like I'm spiritual. I wouldn't necessarily say I'm bound to any one religion.
Okay, let me ask you this. I'm gonna say when and then you complete the sentence, yeah?
Okay.
So when I wake up in the morning.
I have coffee.
Okay, nice. When I am confronted with an angry person.
Show them a magic trick. No, I'm just kidding. When I'm confronted with an angry person, just try to diffuse the situation without violence, physical violence.
Okay. When I feel overwhelmed or anxious.
Meditate.
Nice. Okay, so you do meditate and stuff as well then,
yeah?
Okay, nice. When I am extremely happy.
I spoil everyone around me.
Nice. And when I am extremely hungry.
I check Uber Eats for any specials.
Hey, so you mean the Uber Eats is going on there, yeah? South Africa.
Dude, Uber Eats, you know what? the amount of bikes we drive past
Oh
our
yes,
house
of course.
like on a
It's
daily
bicycles
basis.
and stuff. Isn't it?
Yeah, so they have like motorbike. For the most part, it's like motorbikes with like the box at the back, like the delivery bikes. But there are hundreds per day, and I won't even lie to you, like hundreds that we every single day
And
through
what's
like
the
Uber
situation
Eats.
with just like with generally ordering anything off the internet? Because I mean, I've been out the country for years now, and like when I was
Mhm.
there, like you do not order, you don't put your
Anything.
credit card in anything. on
I think it's um, another plus. Like, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of negative stuff that came out of last year with COVID and everything. But one of the positive things is that it drove a lot of people to actually start being more open to shopping online. You know what I mean? So places like Takealot. So obviously Takealot is like South Africa's version of Amazon, micro, like very much smaller. So people like started ordering stuff of Amazon, whether it was like just general stuff for the house, appliances, things like that. But then also a lot of people started ordering, food delivery. So using things like apps like Uber Eats. I think people are a lot more trustworthy now um, and I think at the same time, they're also a lot more educated about, you know what I mean?
the
Like the
online internet.
security systems
Yeah.
behind everything. And yeah, so I think they're a lot more open to that idea right now. Um,
And what's the service
there's,
like? Is it
like I said,
what's the service like?
what
Is it
like
fast?
stuff like delivery things like
Yeah.
Uber Eats and things.
Just I mean, obviously for Uber Eats they can't take like days, but I mean like just ordering. Say I buy myself a new Bluetooth headset. How long is it gonna take to come there?
It's a couple of days, like, you know what I mean. It's not you're gonna pay a lot more for like overnight shipping, like let's say a 24-hour delivery. You'll pay like a lot more for it, but like a few days, so
That's
it's
what I,
not going to be like a 6-week waiting period or whatever.
yeah, I suppose that's not that bad. I mean, they need to sort out the postal service.
I don't. Yeah, I don't. The only thing I go to the post office for is to pay fines or to renew a license for the car. I don't like. I don't think I'll ever use the postal service for anything other than that. So.
That's such a weird thing, bro. Like over
Yeah.
here, um, in England, like the postal service is like it's Her Majesty's Royal Mail. So
Okay.
like you can't really fuck around with the post office, bro. It's official. It's efficient. You know what I'm
You
saying?
can't tamper with it. It's like, yeah. I mean, you can't
Yeah.
tamper with it anywhere for that matter. But I
Yeah,
feel like,
but that's South
yeah,
Africa.
it's a little less. It's a little less enforced. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's not as
um, yeah, no, I don't think on the topic of a post office, I don't even think I've seen like a postman or anything in years.
really.
Come to think of it, yeah,
Oh,
it's just so we've been staying where we are right now, right? We've been staying here for it's going on 6 years, um, and I've never seen like in Bosman I used to see them,
yeah.
like the guy on the bike driving around delivering the letters and everything. I haven't seen one of those postmen or those postal delivery guys in this area since we moved in. Actually, after saying this, now I'm gonna try and pay more attention, and I'll let you know when I do. Maybe I just haven't, like, you know what I mean. My attention just wasn't there, but I'm pretty convinced they don't come
Postman,
around this area.
postman spotting.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it, and I'm gonna post you. I'll send you pictures on Instagram. I'll be like, hey, I found one.
So yeah, just like well not yeah, that's like finishing up. So when's your next gig? Where can people find out about you? Obviously you send me some links, I'll put it on as well. But
Yeah, absolutely. I actually just did a show, well, a few weeks ago. We're still trying to get into like live performances and everything, Most of my shows now are done online. So it's interesting how it's boomed, because basically my wife and I do an Airbnb online experience. So it's like you have the Airbnbs, which you rent out your house. Then you have Airbnb experiences where you can like go and experience the place that you're staying in. Now they've started doing, well, since last year, they started doing online experiences. So it's like through Zoom, so I've honestly been getting a lot of like doing magic shows through the Airbnb online experience as well. Even in terms of shows like bookings and everything, most of it has been online. I can honestly tell you that in terms of live shows over the past year, obviously, okay, let's say when we came out of like hard lockdown, when things started opening up again, I probably had 3 live shows, like live bookings, but everything is done online. I'll always post about like upcoming events and shows, even if I'm not necessarily in the show. I just want to push magic as an industry, as an art form. So I'll post like on Instagram story. Like my Instagram is Chad Spade. You can find it on there as well. But yeah, that's pretty much.
Do you have any like
how it's been
do you have a
working.
YouTube channel or?
It's funny you say that. So because of last year, I've had to like also branch off into another industry. So I started a media agency, right? A media production agency. So I do video production for companies, product ads and stuff like that. So that's called Epidemic Media. And that's where I've been focusing a lot of my YouTube time on, doing like video tutorials and stuff like that. There is a channel called Chad Spade Magic on YouTube as well. There's not, I don't know when the last time I've put anything new up on there. Over the past year, I haven't been able to, obviously.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's most of my attention is actually on Instagram at the moment.
No, well, I mean, just keep me updated, and then maybe in future we can come on again, and like, if we've got new stuff, whatever, we can catch up again and talk about it and stuff as well. Man.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I follow you as well on Insta as well now, so I'm going to be up to date with all of the podcasts and everything that's coming up from your side.
Yeah, nah. Thanks, bro. Honestly, yeah, it's been a pleasure speaking to you today, bro. And honestly, like, just getting to know you a bit better. I mean, it's been a long time since we've actually seen or spoken, and yeah, it's been great having you on, man. Honestly,
I appreciate it, man, and I really appreciate you having me on the podcast as well.
Yeah, bro, you're an interesting person. So
when you said you're an interesting person, I was like, I got one.
Like, yes,
one person thinks so.
Someone thinks I'm interesting. Yeah.
book me now.
Yeah, but no, thank you so much for coming on, bro. And like, hopefully we will like we'll give it some time, and then let you do your thing, and then we can catch up again, hopefully at some point in the future, and just catch up and see where you're at again, man.
Of course, man. It was my pleasure being here, brother.
Show us some more tricks and all that stuff,
Definitely. Next time I'll come more prepared than just with 4 cards.
Yeah, I want to see you walk on water, man.
Okay. I will absolutely find a way to walk on water in my dining room, 100%.
But anyway, thanks again, man. Guys, it's the Solar Kid. This is the Other Side of the Sun podcast. Got my boy Chad Spade there, all the way from Joburg, magician extraordinaire. And we are out. Peace.